Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting for July. Kathy, can you call roll? Kathy Persons?
Let me check.
Okay.
You want me to call roll while he's looking for her, and then she can have it on the.
That would be great.
Okay.
I think you're more familiar.
I can hear it.
Oh, there she is. Kathy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can.
Okay, ready?
I am if you are.
Okay. Chairperson McGraw,
Here.
Supervisor Syed. Here. Matt Yetto,
Here.
Brian Backus,
Here.
Stan Fominski,
Present.
Alexis Kim, Paul Briggs,
Yes.
Josh Hawley,
Yes.
Michelle Martinelli,
Yes.
Bill Lawrence,
No, Bill Lawrence.
Rosemary Jekwith, Bill McPartlin, John Delarada, Laura Robertson,
Here.
Lori Peretti, Janet Wynn,
Here.
Ray Smith, and Pete Rakovica. And did I miss anyone? Okay, we're all set.
Kathy.
Alexis is here now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. I hope everyone has had a chance to review the minutes. Kathy, thank you for preparing them and getting them out in such a timely fashion. I know this is it's a very time-consuming job. I will entertain a motion on the minute. I will put forward the motion. I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Denise, just for the record, those are the June 3rd, 2020 minutes.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
For the minutes for next month.
For
Thank
last
you.
month.
Water and sewer items, Matt?
Okay, so first item is our continuing COVID-19 response. We received training yesterday from Alexis on the use of thermometers, proper documentation, and also the pre-screening that our staff have to do prior to beginning work. Everyone, supervisors from the water and sewer crew, the water plant, and the sewer plant all were part of it. Seemed to go pretty well. I had a couple minor questions. We're still working out some of the details, but I think it went well. Charlie.
While you're on that, I just want to thank Alexis. This has been an incredible undertaking. And for those of us who have been working with her on a daily basis on the COVID response and getting us back open, which is the most important thing, I think residents are surprised to learn we're not open. And so, Alexis, you've done an incredible job. Thank you very much. There's so many aspects to this that I'm sure when we began it, people couldn't even imagine, and that you spend day in and day out trying to not only help us revamp our policies, but you're doing everything from making sure the signage is correct and teaching people how to use thermometers to actually buying the cleaning solution and gloves. So, and you know where the best sales are if we need things immediately. So thank you very much for all your efforts. And Matt, thank you for getting your team together and getting that done. I know that was a very important issue for us. So thanks for handling that, Matt.
And it was my pleasure. And I explained to Matt yesterday that, this is not just a plan that's going to be static. It will be constantly reviewed. If these thermometers are not deemed the best suited for the water and sewer garage or for the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant, we'll revise and we'll get what we need. Because Matt was saying maybe the wall-mounted thermometer would have been better for the water and sewer garage. I said, let's try out the handheld ones for a week or two. If the wall-mounted one would work better, we'll make that switch. So Matt, just make sure you're like, just, if you have problems, just feel free to reach out. I'm not going to take offense or anything if, the touch-free handheld ones aren't working out for you guys.
No,
And
I
then-
think once we started using them at the water plant today, and at the sewer plant, the water and sewer crew will be doing it first time tomorrow. If anything comes up, we'll let you know. I think it's just going to be what works best for each department, and we can modify, and as long as we keep you in the loop.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing, could you just clarify, because I understood it, but I'm not sure if I want to make sure everybody does. See, while you have PPE on hand, it's not PPE designed for COVID-19 or virus prevention. It's more PPE for the hazardous work that you guys do on a day-to-day basis. So to the extent that you would have gloves, they're not the type of gloves that you would want to throw out, every time you would take someone's temperature, correct?
Yeah, they're gloves that are meant for prolonged use. If you're working on rebuilding a pump that has contact with sewage and things like that, you want something that won't puncture and will work with tools. Using those to take daily temperatures and then throwing them away after 5 minutes would be very wasteful. So something more like a latex exam glove or something like that would be better.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make the clear distinction between how you have PPE. It's meant for and designed for a different protection than for temperature screening. So we'll order. I know you said extra large. We need to order like 1,000 gloves probably at least to get things done.
Thank you. One other thing on the COVID response, we'll be entering into a phase where the public will be entering the town hall shortly, and we have a couple of minor things that need to be done still. Charlie's working on a plexiglass divider for Kathy Person's area. Would like to do something similar for Chris, even though she has less contact with the public. And we did have one situation where someone did make it in to town hall, made it up to our department. And I think that's going to be avoided now in the future, but it was just something that took us a little bit by surprise. So I know Charlie has the materials, and as soon as he gets the time, hopefully he can get that plexiglass up prior to us opening to the public.
He was able to get the pool one up in a day, and it looks very good, and it's very helpful. So
I know he has it all, and I know that's actually becoming an issue, is finding plexiglass.
Yeah.
So the hardest part's done. So thank you.
Yeah, he did a great job on that. So I'm sure he's got a plan.
Thank you.
And you put that request into Charlie, correct, Matt?
A few weeks ago, yes.
Okay, so he is aware that Christine plexiglass.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good.
Thank you.
But Matt raises an interesting point. Is Sarah Jane back to work?
She is.
Okay. What's her schedule? And she's been trained?
She is going to be trained, but actually, well, this really isn't anything we should discuss in public forum, but I'd be happy to do.
We're going to have an executive session at the end, so we can talk about all these things. Great.
That's
This is Michelle. I can add to that conversation. So if somebody could contact me, I'd like to add to that and explain what happened the other day.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Matt, sorry.
Okay. B, we received a bill from Invoice Cloud for $4,415.50 for the service fees that we waived for the utility bills from the spring. I don't know where that money's coming from and if I have authority to pay that.
I don't think it's coming from this department, is it?
I'm just wondering. That's my question.
I think if my recollection is correct, when we had that conference call back in April, I think we talked about, well, Yasmin, did you ever establish a budget line yet for the COVID-19 response? Because this was part of that response.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we have to get it, but it will be established.
Okay.
Actually, the state comptroller's office sent me a letter and said that we should not establish separate lines for COVID-19, but continue to pay things as we generally would under miscellaneous and contractual.
Okay. So this one, though, so then where would it come out of, Janet? Because I think
Generally, the utility building is split between sewer and water.
Right, but this one was really due to COVID, and it was something that I think Briggs had said we shouldn't do. I don't really know how it ended up. So I think this, and then Yasmin, you were going to take it out of your line. I'm just not really sure how. There was a lot of conversations at a very crazy time. So
my question is, miscellaneous and contractual, we can't add another line item for COVID?
Well, they're saying not to create any new lines. I mean, we would have to track COVID separately, which is what we're doing here. Anything we spend on COVID-related items, we're putting in a spreadsheet right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So we are tracking.
The controller's recommendation. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
This is actually the utility billing, or this was something special?
this is something special, Janet.
Okay. I don't really know a lot about it because I wasn't involved at that point. So I guess we'll have to look into it and see. Wherever we're going to pay for it from, it's going to end up coming from fund balance at this point. I think the budget is pretty strained. I don't know if it's appropriate to take it out of general fund. And even if it is, the supervisor doesn't have that kind of money in her line, I don't believe.
I think we had to have discussions, and I'm not sure if our receiver of taxes is on this call, that perhaps it would come out of the miscellaneous and contractual under the receiver of taxes, because this was really to kind of alleviate the need for her to do her staff.
It was at her request. That's excellent. Thank you, Alexis, for
And
reminding me.
there's going to be another invoice, because that was just for the month of May, and as I understand it, the billing period was through June 15th. So whatever we make, when we fund this budget line, we should keep in mind that it should have enough for the June invoice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alexis, since you had made the contact with them, do you just want to let them know we're not stiffing them, but we just need to get that resolved as to where it's going to come from? And then if we need to have a separate meeting with Diane, and thank you for reminding me that this did come from a request from her office, that would just let me know what you want to do.
Yeah, I'll send you guys an email.
Great. Thank you. All right, Matt.
Okay. Just the information, our new junior engineer, Jessica Gerber, starts. Hey, Josh, is she starting Friday?
Friday, yes.
Okay.
Great. Matt, can you go back on camera?
I'm out camera?
There's two of us on camera that
I can see myself on there.
You can. Okay. Sometimes it clicks out on mine, so sorry to bother you. Okay.
It's okay. You want me to try it again here?
No, you're fine. Let's.
Am I back? Okay. D is T-Mobile Geotab fleet tracking system. We currently use Verizon for our vehicle tracking, and we'd like to move towards using the T-Mobile system, which can save us quite a bit of money annually. And I've seen demos of it, and I like it. I believe the highway department was going to try it. I don't know if they've implemented it yet or not. Alexis, do you know?
We haven't moved forward at all. So I think that's what this is about, is to get this moving along. So Alexis, what's our next step here? Do we need to get back with?
I think that the next step was, if they had any specific questions, Matt, after the material that Eric Dolman sent you guys after following our last meeting, I included like 10 people on the email, and he sent materials. And if you had any specific questions, like I said, this I think could be a finance and general government committee. So you could, if you identify the cars, because it's in the threshold, to not require town board approval, I believe. So I mean, I think that and also maybe talk to Schenectady County, because I know you said you had a very helpful conversation with Schenectady, who introduced the product, and just make sure that you don't have any specifications you need for your vehicles. Oh, and where we left off was whether it was just a cost benefit analysis that I think was just less looking at the numbers and more at the service, is whether we're willing to give out the free towing service.
Oh, right. I remember that now. Okay. So do we have an answer on that? Because I'm not sure. I know I remember an initial conversation around this. Thank you, Laura Robertson. That we didn't use it that often. That we also had towing with the Sunoco station or something, and we weren't using it that often.
We rarely use it. I mean, we could go an entire year without using the towing. We could have one bill from towing a large truck, but we never know when that's going to happen. And you're playing it's just a numbers game at that point. But I don't think it's worthwhile to carry that. And if you look at the savings monthly, you'd catch up, and you wouldn't need it. And a lot of times, the highway has a portable service truck, and they can come and service a vehicle right where it is. So it's really only the big trucks is where we were having trouble.
Sure.
And it rarely happens. I can't even remember the last time we towed a large truck.
All right. So that seems like that's not an issue, and that was the only issue. So we'll be able to move forward for finance.
Yeah. Do you want me to, Matt? Do you want me to be? I know we've been in contact with Eric Dolman for about probably 5 months now about this. So do you want me to just continue being kind of the point person and include everybody on the email and say that we'd like just kind of more formalized quote or an agreement for you to consider for next Tuesday?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, and one
That's fine. I think
you
we've
did
been
ask-
talking
yeah.
about this forever. I think it's time.
Agreed. And one thing you did ask that just rejogged my memory is they do have a mobile app. You had asked that during the last meeting.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Attorney's items. Some of these are repeats. It's just more for updates.
Okay. The two sewer extensions, Wittmeyer and Pierce Road, Josh and I are finalizing the numbers on those. The letter will be going out to the residents shortly, hopefully I'm strongly hoping that by the next meeting, you will have the yes or no from those two streets as to whether or not we have the sufficient number of participants to move the project towards formal petition and then move it forward for the town board action. The Kubricki bill, I sent a memo out.
Can you explain your memo? I saw it. It was very long. I think the upshot was your number is 48,000. Their number is 150,000. So can you just walk us through that memo?
Yes. So Kubricki did work for us in
18 Labor Weekend.
September 2018. He sent us an invoice, a flat fee invoice for $150,100. I directed the comptroller's office not to pay that. I repeatedly asked, as did Matt, for an itemized bill. Mr. Kubricki refused to provide that. He claimed that Matt and he made a handshake deal out on the street. Matt said that didn't happen. We don't do that. Finally, after a year and a half, Kubricki sent us on June 11th an itemized bill, and the itemized bill came out to exactly what the flat fee was, $150,100. The numbers that he put down, for instance, for his own labor were, in my opinion, grossly inflated. For instance, he put down his hourly rate was $800 an hour. On the prior invoice, just months before, he charged us, I think, $85 an hour. Coincidentally, Matt found, luckily, an invoice or a email from Kubricki 4 months before this Trottingham Drive project, where Matt asked Kubricki for their emergency repair rates. I then used that and applied that to the itemized bill that Mr. Kubricki sent us, and using the rates that Kubricki had sent us 4 months before, the bill came out to just over $46,000 rather than $150,000. It was about $104,000 less than he's asking for. So I'm going to recommend that we issue request a resolution that the town board authorize the comptroller's office to pay the reduced amount that I've determined. We'll take that check and I'll send it to his lawyer along with my calculations. And in my opinion, that should be the end of it. But we'll at least make that payment. We know we owe that. I'm pretty confident in my numbers. There may be some discrepancies on pieces of equipment, but they'll be minor. So that's my recommendation to the committee, is to authorize or recommend to the town board that we pay $46,215.21 instead of the 150,100.
So I have a question on that. I know you had said that there were some items that didn't match up price-wise, and I have been going through it. I haven't had a chance to look it over with a fine-tooth comb. I do think some of the, like the backhoe or whatever is on the invoice, some of the amounts need to be edited. And then in addition, we do have QSAC and Company is asking for financial statements for our audit that they're conducting. So I just, want to note that in any amount exceeding $75,000 could, be of material effect. So just want to note that for pending litigation.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So what's the point about the backhoe? You've been reviewing. I didn't understand what you said, Alexa.
There are some items as I'm going through, and I haven't had a chance to go through every single one of them, but some of the items, the prices that have been inserted or changed, the items are for different items.
So I can
If that
explain.
makes sense.
I can explain the backhoe pricing. So
Okay.
the backhoe that the itemized list that they sent in their email has prices for three different backhoes, and they're numbered. Then there are types of backhoes, and because the numbers didn't match up, I took from Kubricki's list the highest rate backhoe. I didn't. There's a smaller backhoe, a medium-sized backhoe, and a large-sized backhoe. So I used the highest price for all of those on the side of caution rather than the lower price.
Okay. So does that answer your question, Yasmin, about the backhoe?
So yeah, I mean that if that's what was applied, that's fine. I still have to go through it. But if it's recommended to be voted on by the town board later this month, then I'll have time to do that.
And then what was your other point about audits?
Yeah, so if we have any outstanding unpaid bills or, claims in excess of $75,000, either individually or in the aggregate, we need to note that in our audit.
Right.
So every year,
I'm go to that.
I've been writing the attorney's audit letter for 20 years now. I think that's always been my job, and I certainly know, and I will include that.
We probably always have things, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Those are excellent points. Thank you for raising them, Yasmin. So your recommendation, Paul, is you're going to give us a resolution on this?
Yes.
Okay.
City water bill update. The city attorney and I have been going back and forth and trying to get dates. We had one scheduled and he miscalendared it. So he sent me and said that he's a good guy. He's very busy. He's with a new law firm and he's got lots of obligations. So we're going to try to schedule a meeting for next week. That's what we talked about. So
that would be great, because I think that the mayor is under the impression that we're unable to get this scheduled. So could you please get that scheduled for us, Paul?
I will.
All right, terrific.
I talked about Pierce Road that Josh and I are working on. National Grid, this is an amount of, there's a power meter at the wastewater treatment plant that for some reason was never connected. Well, it was connected, but it wasn't being applied to the town bill. It's $218,686.21. I have been discussing with Sarah Zarillo at National Grid, who's in charge of this. They won't reduce the amount, but what they will do is they will let us pay it over the 30 months, because it was actually a 30 months worth of electricity. So they'll allow us to pay it over 30 months without any penalties or interest. I had talked to Paul Sebesta about this before he retired.
An email about it. You sent us all an email and I responded saying go for the 30 months, right?
And then Paul also told me 30 months. So I was, we'll send an email to Janet and give her the details on this, or just follow up on the email I previously sent on June 5th.
Okay.
Will this require a resolution?
I don't think so. We don't need resolutions to pay utility bills.
Probably just included in the budget mods?
That's a comptroller question.
Yeah, when I get the data, Matt, I'll have to look at it and see. We probably will be. How much are we talking about, Paul?
$218,686 divided by 30. So
30.
what's that, about 70,000 a month?
Okay,
No,
so yeah, we're
seven-
definitely going to need to do budget mods.
It's 7,000.
7,000 a month.
7,000 a month.
Give you a heart attack, Paul. I'm bad at math, but I got that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say 70,000 months.
I'm no Yasmin, but I got that one.
My silence was stunned silence.
You were stunned. All right. Thank you, Paul.
And
Ingersoll?
I'll communicate with Janet on that.
Thank you.
Terrific.
I received a letter, Ingersoll Home, as this was a problem where they're putting products into our wastewater treatment system or into their sewer pipes that are clogging them. They're causing us problems. Matt met with the Ingersoll people out there since the last meeting. That was in response to a letter I had sent to the Ingersoll. They've now responded back to me. They've contacted an engineer and they're trying to work out a solution to the problem. And Matt, maybe you can fill us in on what happened in the field.
We took them to a few manholes, opened the covers, and let them look inside. The director of the facility was present, and some of their maintenance staff. I went into their basement as well to show them where their sewer line leaves the building. They weren't completely sure where it was, and bounced around a couple different options for them to look at. We didn't guide them in any way, but we just said, these are some of your options you may want to talk to an engineer about. And I think they have someone on their board who's an architect who designed the building. So he's readily available to work with them.
Do we want to talk about the issue we had at Becker Street Pump Station as a result, Matt?
Yes.
I mentioned it before, but because of that, we ended up having to hire a contractor to take apart some of the plumbing in that station. It was completely bound. One of our pumps was completely bound, and the other one was mainly bound with the paper product that they're flushing. We removed quite a bit of the material. I kept some just to be able to show them that this is what's binding up our pumps. I don't think do we have any legal recourse, Paul, on this to go back and back charge them?
We always can go try to back charge them. I don't know. It might become an evidentiary problem trying to prove that what you're taking out of the bound pump is from them.
But it may be helpful towards pushing them towards getting their issue resolved sooner than later.
Well, their fix, as we talked about before, is not cheap. It's installing a grinder pump down in their basement, right?
A grinder, yes.
Because they talked about that a few years ago and then didn't follow up on it.
No, that's where they were heading, and then they dropped it when directors changed, and then they dropped the pursuit of that.
How much money are we talking about, Matt, with that contractor?
Trying to remember now. It was if you count all of our staff that we had there, the rental of a pump, were probably $10,000.
Well, I think if you could give me an itemized bill, I'll write a letter to them and ask them to pay it.
Okay.
The next item, help me on this one, Matt.
Which one? So 2478 Troy Schenectady Road. They bought a house. The new people moved in 2018. They paid their sewer bill 2018, the second half of 2018 and all of 2019. Then they discovered that they are not connected to the sewer. So Chris made that correction. They're no longer being charged for sewer, but they're asking for a refund for what they paid in 2019 and 2018. The only problem is in 2018, the second half of that year, the bill went to taxes. So they paid it on their property tax. Can we do that?
We can, and we probably should.
Okay.
So have Chris do the calculations, and we'll probably need a resolution for that.
Okay. We had a sewer backup on Regent Street, and the homeowner had called in a plumber to clear their line, and he tried and was unsuccessful. And ended up, the town was called, and we discovered that it was our sewer that was backed up. Alexis just asked if this has the one that was discussed at Highway. I don't think it. No, I don't think it. This is sanitary sewer, not storm sewer. But we have a bill from the contractor for $297. And it was clearly our issue. So I don't know. Would this be a claim, or is this too low to even bother with a claim?
Janet, what's our deductible for claims?
Our deductible is $1,000, so we just need committee approval to pay this bill. Minus the tax. I can't pay the tax, Matt.
Yeah, so it's $275 then.
Right. Thank you.
So what's the committee's position on this? I think we should pay them back. It's our problem.
I'm in agreement, if that matters.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It was clearly our issue. When our crews responded, they ended up coming with our sewer cleaning truck. We cleaned the sewer and then came back the next day with our camera, did CCTV inspection, and then did some additional cleaning of the line.
Okay.
So draft a reso for that, Paul?
Yes.
Okay, I and J are two fence easement agreements. One is for a drainage easement, and one is for a sanitary sewer easement. The maps are attached to the packet. We would, require the same thing that we require with everyone else, that we have gates located that are in a place that we can access if we had to. And that doesn't seem to be an issue with either one of these.
So I'll have those ready, Matt, for the next town board meeting. I'll have signed agreements from the homeowners, so we'll have those ready.
Thank you. Okay, go down to 4 then. Wastewater treatment plant. We did finally receive our DEC letter that we've been asking for several months now. That allows us to accept high-strength organic waste of the liquid type, similar to the Pepsi products that we were taking. We currently don't have Pepsi at this point, but we are available to do that now. There's no, we've moved from the pilot study to full application with approval from DEC. Item B, we received a letter from ESG. It's attached as well to the packet. They no longer want to work with us as far as high strength waste going forward at this time, because they, as it states in the letter, that they don't.
Yeah.
They claim that we're not sticking up to our side of the agreement that was made in the contract, which they didn't feel that they would be able to meet the obligations of their side because we couldn't provide an environment for them to properly market for the high strength waste.
Okay.
So I'm going to interject here because I did have a conversation with Aiden Murphy. Based on our conversation, and I was hoping he would be here on the call today, but perhaps we can set up another one. Perhaps Denise, you, me, Matt Yetto, whoever else wants to be on the call with him. It's not a walk away letter in the sense that there's no longer a partnership with the town. There's still a partnership with the town. They just want to be released from their guarantee. So if you remember, one of the big highlights of the whole project was that we had a $350,000 revenue guarantee per year on the project. And because of these deliverables that were highlighted on the letter, that some things are still being worked out, you know, with the DEC, mitigation plan, et cetera, a few other things, timing, the timing of the facility. They don't feel that at this point they can deliver on that guarantee, but they're not walking away from the engagement with the town. They're still ready and willing to you know, assist us with this process. We just have to rectify these 5 points that they've highlighted.
Yes. So, Yasmin, you're 100% correct. I'm be happy to get on another call with him. I think they're not working. They're willing to come back, I think is a better way to put it. They're willing to come back. They are definitely leaving. And some of these,
that's not my understanding. Yeah, but I think we probably should have another call because that's
Right.
not at all how it was framed to me.
Okay. So they want to be released from their, but they wouldn't. Okay, let's talk to them. Yeah, it's the guarantee. I think it's their ability to work with us. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's get them on the phone and everybody have the same conversation with them. And we'll talk about how we can address some of these things.
Right.
You know, the mitigation plan, I think, is a very big piece of it. I think there are deep concerns about being able to attract partners in this based on the negative press. So I think that would be great if we could put together a plan to address all of this. So then Alexis has a question about a termination fee. I did not have the impression, I see that we're going back and forth on that we're obligated in any way for the termination fee, but I think we need to get on the phone with them again and figure out where we go from here on this.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, it's very disappointing development, so.
Yeah, agreed. And look for that email. I'll send that out to schedule a conference call.
Hey guys, I know you all know this already, but the deeper that we get into the climate smart community certification, just the more that getting the clean energy part of the plant up and running is just so critical to the town moving forward to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It's just a huge piece of what the town is trying to do, I think, to be an environmental leader. And so I know that I don't understand the waste, being, whatever. I don't understand all the engineering, but I am happy to help with anything you need to.
And I would love for you to help, Laura, because you were critical in making this happen.
Yeah.
You played, a very important role in all of it. And I believe that the issue that you're raising right now was part of what figured into my thinking of why I felt so strongly about that this was an important project.
It is. That was just a gut drop for me when you guys said that ESG doesn't want to work here anymore, because we can't lose this. You guys, it's so forward. It's the way we want to move the town. It's like a shining example across the entire state of doing things for the environment that are going to protect our generations. So there's got to be a way to lose.
We have to, because it is a shining example across the state and quite frankly across the nation. So it's won statewide awards, and then I don't go a month, maybe a couple of weeks from another community calling to ask me about the project.
Yeah,
and our experience in working through this.
Yeah.
So this is the way. And if we don't get moving soon, well, somebody else is going to build one, and it's going to be next door, and it's going to be easier for them to work with that community. So, and I don't get, when I go through town, there's a lot of engineers in this town. They understand what the project is, and they talk about it the same way you do, Laura. It's a shining example.
Yeah, the grants are different right now because the state is in the same place that everybody is, but it's it can get us so many points for a certification, and that only leads to, I think, more help in the future from the state, because they're very supportive of governments that are trying to do these green initiatives that reduce greenhouse gases. And this is huge. Like, there aren't that many things you can do that make this big of a difference on greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah, agreed. And Matt Yetto, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have been able to actualize some savings and offsetting of our power at the plant. So even with the very limited things that we are doing, and that's correct, right? We're no longer transporting the sludge. We're able to offset some of the energy costs.
Well, our dryer is back online, which was it was a pre-existing piece of equipment. That's back online. That's saving on hauling costs, but we are using natural gas to dry the sludge right now.
Okay.
The only thing that we're using the biogas right now, primarily is for heating the digesters. And currently with the waste stream that we have, just the waste stream from the town, we were able to run the boiler maybe half a day, and then we had to turn it back off and allow the gas to build again. We did run the biogas generator for testing purposes recently, but in order to do that, we had to turn the feed to the boiler and go to all natural gas for a period of 12 to 24 hours to build enough gas up to run those tests. But the digesters are hungry. They're in good shape, but they're looking for food.
Yeah, right.
It's a living organism, and it's just they're looking for food.
Right.
As disgusting as that sounds, yes, it's true. Well, I think this was a good conversation. I think we all need to get on the same page on this. We have not been. So moving forward, there's just so many benefits to it. If we can figure out some way to get going, I think it'll be more critical than ever. So thank you for raising that, Yasmin.
Absolutely.
So C and D sort of are continuations of the previous conversation. I just left it on there. We have to figure out if we are going to go forward with or without ESG, and so
But we would need somebody to run that aspect of it, going and getting the contracts and vetting them for us.
Yes.
Right. So we don't have the capacity nor the expertise to be able to do that in-house. So
or the contacts too.
Or the content, right. We just don't have it. So if the understanding is that ESG is going to continue to do that for us, great. Or if we have to find somebody else, or if we need to take a break, but we need to get it figured out quickly.
And what are the points?
And I think it's real. I mean, I think that, we lost Pepsi for a variety of reasons. People don't want to read their name in the paper. All they're doing is trying to get rid of their organic waste. They're not giving, so we'll just have to work all of that out.
Okay. Well, so D, the mitigation plan, are we moving forward on that? What is the status of that?
Yes. Yep. And that's something that we can speak to also when we have our conference call with Eden as to how we're going to handle that. But that's something that can be wrapped up, excuse me, fairly quickly.
Okay.
What aspects of it? Because I'm not sure what we're wrapping up rather quickly. So do you have a better feel for? We've met a couple of times. We met out there. A lot of the things we've already done.
I can put that together. Yep, I can put out a draft as soon as next week, just with everything going, reopening town hall. It's been,
absolutely. No, absolutely. There's no.
But that's something that I can draft up fairly quickly based off of the discussions we've had and circulate a draft and try to come to some agreement on that.
Okay. So have you had further conversations with the residents? Do they know that we've been working on this regularly? I know we were going to have a meeting with the residents, but I know that things have been rather busy.
Yes, unfortunately with COVID restrictions and getting everybody into one place.
Yeah.
That's been the challenge really. So it's something that we can still do. And if we still want to have that draft then, once we have the draft circulated and agreed upon, that's something that we could present and bring everybody back. We will be opening town hall shortly, so we can actually have that in-person meeting.
Sure,
Which
we
is
could do
easy
it
to
virtually. We could certainly
Yeah.
do it virtually. We could do it outside over there, the way we met last time. There's a
Yes.
variety of things that we can do. I would just like to be able to, we've gone through the draft once before. We can go through it one more time with your, the notes that you took that day. We can come to agreement on things that we can do. And we can try to
Yeah.
meet with the residents to get their feedback on it, because there's no sense in moving forward if they're not interested in what we're presenting.
Right. Agreed.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So E is just an update of the overall upgrade project. Everything, all the new equipment is online. Everything's been tested. The generator, like I mentioned earlier, that ran well. It transferred over. National Grid was happy. We've got all their approvals as well. So that's basically the overall construction is done, and we're moving into the regular operations phase of the plant. And that also rolls into item F as well. I've been talking.
Can I interrupt you and ask, did we get the steel plate fixed yet? The one where we had the alleged workers' comp
That
accident?
was replaced, yes. Yep.
It has been replaced?
It was replaced with the fiberglass decking. Yep.
Okay, and it fits correctly this time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's amazing how one little piece of decking had to be cut so many times.
As long as we're not paying for it.
Yeah, no, they ate it every time. So, so item F is I'm talking with Rich Strott and George Bevington from Barton LaJudas to try to get some additional assistance as far as the transition from the construction phase to the operations phase, and to assist the town in finalizing the standard operating procedures, which involves the plant operators taking input from our operators, rolling it into the standard operating procedures, and then also using Barton LaJudas, because they did the design on the plant, to help maybe tweak some of our practices as well, so that our guys are running the plant the best way it can be run, and Barton LaJudas takes our feedback and modifies it. This was something we started a while ago, and I've had some meetings with them and been very happy with their suggestions so far. It would be a short-term contract. It would only be 3 hours a week from Barton LaJudas. I think the value is as far exceeds the cost. And the one gentleman I mentioned, George Bevington, he has 30 years of experience in operations of Johnstown, Gloverville's sewer treatment plant, and he's also a licensed engineer. And he's the guy we always went to for any advice. So if that's possible, I'd like to go ahead and do that. The dollar amount doesn't require, I don't believe actually it does require a resolution. For 13 weeks, I think it comes up to about $8,100.
Matt, because of the nature of this, I would recommend that we use the independent contractor and professional services agreement that we drew up for Alan and Dan, because that will, first of all, protects the town with standard terms allowing for termination, modification, severability. It defines contractor services and offers indemnification, as well as it points out specifically that they're not employees of the town. That has become an issue lately with retirement. They send over questionnaires, and I have to prove that somebody either is an employee or is not an employee when we set hourly rates and give them a regular schedule, such as 3 hours a week. So if we could have them do that same contract like we did with it, and Alexis would have to look at it, it may require some tweaking, but I would feel better if we had that instead of just this letter, because state retirement's going to look at me and say, okay, so he was an employee for 3 hours a week at $195 an hour. Plus, we don't have the protection of the contractual agreements like we so diligently worked on for your retirees.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but he's not doing any operational tasks at the plant. It's just for services that are being rendered for drafting the SOPs. I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
I would update it. So it would be like more of a purely like an expert professional services independent contractor agreement. And I'm sure that, they would, since it's a firm rather just than a retired employee, they probably would have more comments to add to the agreement. I think that it would just make sense to do the resolution to approve that agreement, because otherwise it might be premature to do a resolution next month if the payment's not going to be due until 13 weeks from now.
Well, I think there's probably going to be payments along the way. I'd like to get them started as soon as possible, just so we don't fall behind. I want to get this buttoned up and get it finished.
This could all be done before the July 28th meeting, or ready for the July 28th meeting.
If you want to take a look at it's attached. You can look at the document. If you want to deal, we can.
I'll send you just my suggestions. Like I said, just less of a letter and just more of a signed agreement. It's not going to add any obligations to them that would change their desirability to work for the town. Just more formal.
Okay. Water treatment plant. We're still looking. We re-advertised for water plant operator positions. We're very close to having yet another retirement, and we're still one operator down at this point. So we're going to be more aggressively reaching out and trying to get somebody. It's tough right now. No one wants to leave their current job, especially if it's a successful job. And it takes a while to get your license to be able to be a plant operator. So once they've been at a plant for a while to get that license, they've already accrued quite a bit of vacation time and other benefits that they don't want to leave behind when they move to another municipality. But we'll keep actively pursuing and trying to get some names and get some people in here to interview. There's really no other way. We need to have operators at our plant, and I could get a call tomorrow at the second to last operator decides he wants to retire because he's already exceeded what his original plan was, and then we'd be left with one operator, and that's not feasible. And the plant trainee, we're working on the plant trainee. Depends on what we do as far as operators and trainees. I'll leave that on there as a tentative resolution. 6 is water and sewer maintenance.
So can I just go back to the resolutions for a minute, Matt?
Sure.
So it has become my monthly cry, but I am going to continue to say it. We need to get the materials to Alexis in a timely fashion for the resolutions. We are still getting information for resolutions the day of the meeting. We did some very important things last month, and we were still getting information the day of the meeting. We have to have the resolutions by the close of business on Friday. It's just not fair to anyone.
I said, Matt, it's just like the resolutions, yours are so specific that like I can have a little bit of a shell, but since they're so specific to like either equipment or to specific contracting names, it's hard to write them in too far in advance without the attachment. So it's just more that I just need the attachments to write the resos, appropriately. So I'd say like just give me a heads up if I'm not gonna get them before Thursday night, so that I at least I know that. But I'd say like the absolute latest it would be. I mean, the preference is by Wednesday, but the absolute latest for me to be able to get them out by 5 p.m. is like early Friday morning.
The packet this month was, Alexis, correct me, 150 pages, 160 something pages. It's just very hard to process that at the last minute and piecemeal. Getting continual emails saying, "Oh, this one exchanges this one." It's just too hard to do. So
and on the same note, we have that resolution appointment form that we've not been getting. So all new, other than seasonals, because there's just no way you guys could do that. When you're appointing somebody, there's a resolution appointment form that you've all been provided. that needs to come down to HR so that we can hook them up with the correct bargaining unit, make sure the correct salary is listed, verify that they meet the credentials for the position that civil service is going to check. And I need to fill that out and get it to Alexis. And, you know, with her working remotely, I have to have the time to fill it out, to scan it, send it to her so that she can write the resolution for those as well. So just a reminder, because we've not been getting those, or we're getting them, you know, at 4 o'clock on a Friday, and she's trying to have the resolutions to the board, but for 5 o'clock, it just doesn't work.
Well, I'm sure this department isn't special in that.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. No.
Yeah, I want to clarify that. So that I want to make that clear. So perhaps that's an email that needs to go out to all the department heads.
I can do that again. I've done that a few times, but I'm happy to do that again.
Great. Okay. Moving right along.
So water and sewer maintenance, we've suspended flushing because of the water shortage. We got most of the area that we normally do in a year done. At this point, we're not going to start it again because our crews are now doing other work. We'll just have to make sure that we get to it next year. There have been times when this has happened in the past as well, but because of the unforeseen impact of the canal core changes to their water levels and the unusually dry period that we had, it just wasn't worthwhile to waste the water that we could be delivering to our customers. I mentioned the water use restrictions. They're still in effect. In fact, they're in effect every year from May to October. We're more aggressive as far as enforcing it. So we continue to do that. But at our water plant, the wells are starting to see an improvement because of the river has come up and we've had those rains that we've had. So I think the worst part of the crisis is over and we're moving towards more normal operations. C is purchase of a portable sewer pump. I pulled this last month because I didn't want to rush it at the end as far as a resolution. So we will be ready for a resolution this month for it. We still have an opening in the water sewer maintenance crew, and we are actively taking applications, and if we get a good candidate, we'll provide the name and information to the board. But at this point, we haven't had any applications that were worthy of an interview yet. E, the Mohawk Road water main replacement project. Josh and I have been working with Prime Engineering and Angio, the contractor who's doing the work. We met out there a few times. The one thing that did come up was, we also met with the county as well. The one thing that did come up, the new alignment of the water main does require the removal of 7 or 8 trees that are within the county right of way. We met with the county. They were not in objection to us taking the trees down. Their concern was if we did that, some of the trees were dead, and then also because of the proximity to the water main, their concern was if the ground is disturbed on the one side, if the trees had ended up dying or falling, they would go onto the private property. And also from a utility standpoint, trees and utilities don't get along. You really don't want large trees over the top of a utility. Some of the trees are required. Tree removals are required because the county doesn't want us in the road with the new main, and also National Grid, when they installed the gas line there, it almost looks like a snake the way that they didn't do a nice straight line. So there are places where we have to go around the gas line, which is then they missed the trees when they put the gas in, but now because of the way they laid the gas line, the trees are in the way. We did everything we could to try to avoid it. Couple of the times we were able to move the alignment early in the design, but the county was very much against running the new main solely in the road. Josh, you have anything to add?
Now that pretty much summarizes it. I do have a few calls from residents that I need to return their calls that are advocating for the, leaving the trees. I agree with Matt's assessment and our engineer's assessment that we really did the best that we could to preserve as many trees as possible. I consider it a win if we're installing 3,300 linear feet of pipe in a wooded corridor like Mohawk Road, and we're only removing 8 trees. I do value the residents, how their evaluation of the trees and how important they are to them. We do have some budget for tree plantings, all dependent on county approval because it's their right of way. So I feel like we've taken as much as we possibly can to try and offset the losses that those residents feel. I would like some feedback and a better understanding of how I could approach those residents to try and, address their concerns.
Okay, well, I would like to, the one most important thing you just said, well, besides that we haven't talked to them again, is that we're going to budget for tree replacement. I think they need to know that, and we need to continue to work with the county on the tree replacement. And then if I could just ask that you get back with those folks. They're concerned. They're concerned enough to be, searching out our home phone numbers. I know what it's like to live in a house where you live behind trees. It becomes a very different thing when you take one, let alone a few out. So.
Hey, Paul, one thing that Josh mentioned about replanting trees, the county would prefer, and we would prefer, that if the trees were replanted, they would be planted on private property, not within the right of way, because that way this wouldn't happen again in the future. And it would also relieve the county of any responsibility of maintaining the trees. How do we offer that? Do we have to get an agreement with them to allow the contractor to set a tree? It would only be maybe 4 or 5 feet into their property, but still onto their property.
We would have to get a temporary construction easement from them to do that work and permission to go onto their property.
I would assume they'd want it, at least the one resident, right, who's going to lose a few trees.
Yeah, I would think so, but I'll have that conversation with them and see if they're receptive to that idea. I think that would be a good compromise. Our budget, I think, it's just off the top of my head, I think we had budgeted for 4 trees. We have flagged 8, so I mean that's some offset. I know Laura's always looking for places to plant trees too. I could try and engage her in the tree council and see if they have anything available as well. So those are just some ideas that we could pursue to try and help these residents.
So maybe this is a question for Laura. If we're taking out trees because we don't want them over the top of a new water line, we're putting the trees right back in the same spot?
No, we're moving them
No, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
So we want to set them on private property out of the right of way. Is why that idea is desirable.
I understand now. Thank you.
Yeah. And the residents were asking, can we have the water main run through the center of the street as opposed to closer to their homes? So then when I explained that part to them, they understood that as well, that, that's just not a desirable way to engineer something. So if we could just continue to communicate with them is just my biggest thing. I mean, whether it ends up being 4 trees or 8 trees, I obviously would prefer all the trees that they're losing be replaced. But some may be more important to them than others. So,
Laura, what does a tree cost right now for a street tree typically?
150?
Well, it depends on the size, and the tree council is actually trying to get us to go smaller, because if you buy a slightly smaller tree, 1, it's cheaper, and 2, in 3 to 4 years, it's the exact same size as the bigger one because it suffers less when you transplant it. They're able to, just adapt to the soil quicker than the ones that have been pot bound for longer. But it depends. If you want to put the bigger one in the right away because it's more substantial looking to begin with, which is why sometimes that's what the highway does for street trees. They typically run like $250 to $350. If you want to do the smaller ones, they can be anywhere between $190 and like $290.
In the overall cost of this project, that's
what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, let's do the right thing here on the trees. That I just, one, let's budget for it and get them the right trees. Work with Laura and the tree council to make sure that they're trees that are appropriate, and communicate that to them. Matt, you said it. This is a big project. It's a big dollar project. I really would hate to quibble over 4 extra trees.
Yeah, I can put it on the tree council tonight and let them know that they can work with you guys on a tree replanting plan.
I would love that, Laura.
I like that.
And make sure that, that we're planting something, that works with the people. And the tree council, they're very energized. They're even happy to meet with the residents sometimes and figure out what tree everybody likes. They do
Exactly.
that sometimes. Yeah.
That would be great. That's my preferred solution to this.
Of course, and that's what we'll pursue. The last point I want to make is just that it's still, there may be a perception with some residents that, you're removing a mature tree, and with a smaller tree, it's not, you're not getting the same exact thing back. I just want to state that I believe that we have exhausted all possible engineering considerations for avoiding conflicts with the trees, because I think that is one of the requests I do have from a resident is to still try and realign the pipe.
Yeah.
So I just want to just state that after talking with our engineer, we just don't believe that is possible at this point. So unfortunately, that's where, as far as we can go, is the replacing with the young trees, and I'm hoping that that's going to be enough to make people happy.
All right, and Josh, you've done a great job here.
Thank you.
You and I have had repeated conversations about it, and I know that you've talked to the residents. I would just like to be able to circle back with them and just keep them engaged in it. And I do know that there continue to be engineering questions about it. But if we can get this piece resolved, I think it'll go a long way.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Beyond the trees, the project is progressing. They are installing pipe today. They started yesterday, I believe. And they have their New York State DOT permits as well, so they'll be doing the work underneath Route 7. They're going to start building the temporary sidewalks on Route 7 on tomorrow. They have to build 2 temporary sidewalks to work there for a couple of days, and then they have to tear them all back up again and move along. But it should only be about 5 days total up there, and then back to Mohawk. Temporary summer workers. We didn't initially plan on having summer workers because of the COVID situation, but now that the town has gone back to a new normal, there are still things that we would benefit from having summer help. Primarily, some landscaping and mowing at our plants, and also painting of our fire hydrants. So I'd like to try to at least get one summer help kid to help paint fire hydrants, and maybe one to share between the 2 plants for other, painting and other minor mowing. And
so these are kids who are willing to start in essence August 1st, or
I don't know. I mean, I have to find if I can even get somebody, but I didn't have the authority, or we didn't know what was going on at this point. And we'll see what we can do. Okay. If we can't, then we'll suffer through, and we'll just maybe hire 2 kids next year to paint and catch up that way.
Do you have names? I'm sorry.
Not yet. No, I don't. I wanted to get the okay of the committee prior to doing that.
Yeah, if you could put them to work and you've got the line, I mean,
Yeah, the line's sitting there. We're not using it.
Yeah,
it might be tough, but we didn't know. Everything was so up in the air the last few months, and now we're finally.
If you've got the line and you've got the work and you have kids, you find somebody between now and then, and they're willing to just work. I mean, the meeting is until the end of the month again.
Yeah.
It's like the
True.
28th.
True.
So, I have kids who are asking about the pool, and I said, okay, are you willing to start work on August 1st?
True.
So, but let's see what we can find. I mean, if you've got a kid who wants to work for a month and you've got a month worth of work, there'll be some savings there because they won't eat up the whole line.
Okay.
And we've got to look towards savings for everything. As Janet pointed out so eloquently, the budget is tight. So great.
And let's see, that brings up something too. I mentioned mowing in the past. and I have to talk to Ray about this. I just found out last night. In the past, the highway department would mow our sewer treatment plant, and when the construction started, they stopped because of all the construction. I spoke briefly to Ray last night. He seems to be okay with that. So Monday, I'm going to meet with someone from the Parks Department, and they're going to look at the site, and highway is going to come back and start mowing for us again. So
Right.
I can understand why they didn't for a while, because you didn't know what was under the grass because it was all torn up. So that'd be nice. That would help save on the need for some. So Finance Committee, most of these are carried over from up above, but some aren't. The Spectrum Finance Agreement, I just leave that on there because it's an ongoing thing. I don't know if there's any updates on that.
I think Alexis is trying to get their attention.
Yeah, no update, but I have reached out about a recent increase in the monthly fees that are going to be, that residents are going to be notified of shortly. Haven't heard back yet.
Okay. The pump is carried over from up above. The National Grid electric bill from above. Item E. Josh and I met with Ray Smith and Councilwoman Rosemary Perez Jaquith, and
Put the TV on. Put the TV on. Yeah.
And yesterday, and it sounds as if Highway doesn't want to take part, or it doesn't feel like it's going to be easy for them to take part in the fuel management grant. So we're looking at other options of possibly keeping that the gasoline portion of it on water and sewer property, and Highway would do their own separate project. So that would require a budget modification, because the grant only covers $125,000 worth of the project. The other remaining money was split up between the police, the fire district, and water and sewer. And now with Highway choosing to pull out, we're going to have to change some of that breakdown. And Josh,
Sure. So does it threaten the grants? I'm sorry. Can you just back up a little bit? I was taken aback by the whole
Laura.
thing. So
That was our concern initially, but we spoke to Laura recently, and she's saying now it should be okay.
All right, great. So then proceed without them. If they don't want to do it.
Well, they had concerns, and it was, the timing was a little tough, but I think we'll make it work out.
Great. And as long as we can still get the grant, that's fantastic. And if
Yeah,
you
when we
want
have
it,
the revised plans, we'll just email it to Dasney real quick. But if it doesn't change any of the estimates, it's just a notification to them. The intent of the grant is still being met. And I know that it might be a little frustrating, but you probably just want to make sure that in the future, when Highway's pumps fail, that there'll be some provision that they can use these pumps, just so that you don't have like two sets of pumps. I'm just saying.
sure, you could just let them use them, and you'll bill them just the way they bill you for things.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're just essentially moving it like 100 feet, and then they can use theirs until, which will be fine. It'll be fine.
So Matt, can you or Josh rework those budget modifications? We work up that spreadsheet, taking the Highway out of the picture, and I'll get that set up for you for the end of the month.
Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time. I have to reach out to our Northeast Petroleum, because we are in contract with them. So this is going to be a change order. I don't know where the balance will be, the final number, but it will change the amount of the project, the cost of the project.
Well, we do have time, like Denise said, it's not till the end of the month. So as long as I can have it for Alexis for early on Friday, late Thursday, we should be good.
I have a call scheduled this afternoon with them, so that'd be the first step towards the change order. So that'll be the goal, to get it done before that meeting.
Terrific. Good. Because it's a good project. Let's keep moving.
And everything else under finance board action was just carried over from up above.
Okay.
Just for ease in creating the resos.
And Matt, just so Alexis, 3, G, H, I, and J are all going to need resolutions. 2478 Troy, Schenectady, 1366 Region, 24 Laura, and 1036 Hickory.
Thank you.
Okay.
8 with just an update on the splash pad. It was opened on June 27th, and the new feature has been ordered, and it should be here by the end of July.
At the end of the summer. Alexis, are you on?
I'm right here.
Okay. Do you just want to go over briefly? I know you've gotten a crash course in splash padding over the last week.
Yeah, there's a little bit of missing. I mean, there's confusing. I mean, it's confusing. We've been told so many different things about wearing face coverings, and it's constantly updated. So at first, we put up signs that say you must wear a mask when you're not in a splash pad. Upon further review, there's actually specific DOH guidelines for opening aquatic splash pad venues. And that guidance says at this point, if you're sitting outdoors with your family or your household unit, and you are at least 6 feet away from the next family over, you do not need to wear a face covering, and it might not be advisable to even be wearing one because, like, I used an example. Like, I went with Taylor this weekend, and she was running, running everywhere. So I was constantly having to go from the bench into the water. They say in those situations, you don't want to be wearing a face mask because of the risk. I mean, it's very dangerous if you're wearing a face mask and it gets wet. And so we have to we're working on just language that's concise. I mean, because a lot of verbiage, you must wear a mask if you're within 6 feet of someone outside your household, and you must have one on hand. We're just trying to look at messaging to make it very clear what the rules are, so everyone feels safe. I think that the benches are great. I think we can. I mean, we don't need to get exact measurements, but I know they're more than 6 feet away. But do you know approximately how far they're spaced out?
I didn't set them. I don't know. I can measure. But
probably they were parks. So they were parks. Ray's people were out there. I was out there with them. So you might want to ask him because they look pretty even. So they must have done a specific. I can just go over
with my tape measure just because I mean I wanted to be able to say
go over with a tape measure. Did everybody catch? She just said she's going to go over with a tape measure because this is how she spends her days. Okay. Yes.
So yeah, we're going to fix that messaging. We also are. If we notice, there's been so much discussion about bathrooms lately. And how, whether our obligations to restock them, we should be adding more soap dispensers. My understanding is that Ray's guys went and added additional soap dispensers and paper towel dispensers. If you guys get any complaints or we hear any complaints about being too much garbage because now we have more paper towel use, I think I asked Brian Backus to look into just put out feelers for how much it would even be if we were to outsource this, like a restocking bathroom company. So just keep your ears peeled for that because one of the guidelines is always just good hand hygiene, and we don't have hand sanitizer there, which means either hand sanitizer or sink and soap.
Okay, and then, all right, so you just want us on terms of the bathrooms to just keep an ear out if people are concerned about them?
Well, I'd say if we were noticing that there's not soap there, meaning we can't be constantly monitoring the soap level. So if we notice that there's not sufficient supplies for people to maintain good hand hygiene, we might want to look into putting out. I ordered portable, like they're pretty heavy stand steels that we attach soap dispensers to, and you can pull them in and out at the end of the day. Those might be a good option for around the splash pad if we're having problems with keeping up with the soap stock in the bathroom.
Well, maybe a permanent hand sanitizer station put somewhere over there might be one of the steps that we would want to take so that people are just somewhat, they're seeing something, right? So, and reminding them.
Yeah, that might just be a good something for finance to discuss, or just as an investment. I mean, we have events throughout the year. I mean, if we could get pretty, when I say permanent, really sturdy hand sanitizer dispenser stations that we could use and move around throughout the year, I think that's an investment that we'll be using not only for splash pad, but in the future from when there's big events at the town hall or for the recycle event, anything that's the farmers market, we're looking into the same thing. I think getting a hand sanitizer there is prudent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So, Alexis, we spent a lot of time and effort on the signage around there. over the weekend, the holiday? What do you want to do in terms of the signage?
Yeah, so I mean, the signage, I'm finalizing just kind of the design of it. I wanted to make sure that it's big enough. We talked about the dimensions, and then we'll have them printed. But I think we should have signage as required for any outdoor parks, facilities where there's coverage or we're inviting somebody in. We should have required signs about hand hygiene. So I think if we're going to be doing hand sanitizer stations, then the signs would say, make sure you use hand sanitizer provided. But that messaging is obviously going to change if we're not going to have hand sanitizer. I mean, I think the decision should be just based on all of my review of all of the recommendations, the requirements, and the guidance that we should be having hand sanitizer there. So if you want me to move forward with trying to find how we can get that quickly and outdoor specific, like ones that are meant for outdoor use specifically, I would be happy to do that.
I would like that. That would be great. If you have time, I think that would be great. And then in terms of, I just don't know if this requires a separate meeting in terms of keeping up with the cleaning supplies, keeping up with the gloves, getting all of these things, the soap in the bathrooms, the paper towels, I think that in some locations it's more overwhelming than we really would have envisioned at some point. As I did the back of the envelope math for everybody the other day, the pool goes through at a minimum every 15 minutes a different set of gloves, which ends up to be like 48 gloves, 50 gloves, just that. And that's not with the kids doing the snack bar, the regular cleaning rotations, the other. So I think it's like 100 pairs of gloves a day just at the pool. So I just don't, I just don't know how, what we've got to, I don't know if we need to have a separate conversation how we get all of this ordered and in-house.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we should definitely have, like, it's this sit-down meeting that we had with Charlie Bergami, I thought was helpful. I think maybe we need to have one of those again and have, Yasmin there, Jenna, and make sure that we're all on the same page.
That would be great.
Point, I mean, we obviously need to always follow our procedures of approval and everything. But this is really, I mean, we cannot be having these facilities or having, town offices open if we do not have them, and we cannot represent them for cleaning them.
Right, and the camps and all of the stuff that we're doing. So I think we're very ambitious. We're trying our best. And then that brings me to the masks. So some employees are wearing masks. Other employees aren't wearing masks. The employees who are wearing masks are complaining about those who aren't wearing masks. Are we going to have to come up with a blanket policy that they all have to wear the masks?
I sent out an email to all townwide employees regarding the required temperature protocol that goes into effect tomorrow, or the questionnaire. Yeah. And at the bottom of it, I said, everyone must wear a mask, at all times, unless they are at least 6 feet away from a coworker. And I said, although you're not legally required to be wearing a mask if you're sitting at your station and you're 6 feet away from somebody, if one of your colleagues feels uncomfortable, I said, you kind of have a moral obligation, be a good person, put it on unless it's unreasonable request. I don't know if people got to the bottom of my email. It's quite lengthy. But with respect to specific complaints, I'd say maybe they should just come through me and I'll look into them. I mean, we don't have a protocol for how we would punish someone. I mean, it's not punishment, it's your civic duty to wear one. I don't know how much clearer it could get. And we have obligation to protect our other employees. So maybe we could have an elevation protocol that says if someone's not wearing a mask, you notice it. When it's someone, meaning an employee, who's making you uncomfortable, this is who you should contact, and then you go from there.
But Alexis, it's also my understanding, and I may be incorrect, and maybe we should look into this, that certain people with certain conditions are advised not to wear a mask. This yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think I put in my email. If you have a medical condition, and that's what HIPAA thing. And one of the issues is we want to make sure. That's why this is, for me, there is legal requirements, and I just think that sometimes we get so lost in the legalese that we forget about just the big picture. Like we should be wearing them, because if it makes people within our workplace feel safer after this really traumatic experience for many, being locked in home, stuck at home for the past 3 months.
but yeah, no, legally, like there's problems that we run into. We can't, there's HIPAA issues if we were to require someone to disclose their medical history for why they're not wearing a mask. So, I mean, hopefully that our request for voluntary identification of being a high risk individual, somebody would have utilized that form to indicate that they would not be wearing a mask for some reason. And if maybe we need to clarify that, but I don't know how many employees we have that would really fall into that category, because like I said, I'm not going to be privy to their medical history. So I would just say, just to wrap up, I think we should assess, are these repeat offenders? Is there a select few who are doing this, or is this a widespread misunderstanding town-wide? Because like, I mean, I think that I only can speak for what I see at the town hall when I'm there, and just what I observe when people are working outside.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that it's a combination of some people just never wear the masks, right? They're just not gonna. And so all right. Sounds like you've got an idea in your head of how you want to proceed. So
yes, I will.
What you decided, we have to discuss, and then it has to be supported.
Yes, but what is not an issue at all is everyone must wear a mask when they're in cars with another coworker, when they're walking in and out of the town hall or any facility. When you enter the town facility, you must be wearing a mask. So, I mean, those points should not be, I hope those are very clear. If they're not, then we need to do better at messaging and making it an unambiguous requirement.
Sounds good.
Okay. Recycling center, transfer station, landfill, former garage site. So the building is down. The old water and sewer garage is no longer standing at Blatnick Park. Been working with Ray the last couple of days. He's been helping to help grade the site with some of the material that we received from the county's project over at the Circle. The intent was to get it to a relatively level site and make it safe so that no one can get hurt. It's so close to so many other things that draw kids to the area. We wanted to stabilize the site as quickly as possible. I have attached a plan that was something that we came up with a while ago. It's part of the packet of just a concept of how that could be laid out going forward. Laura had offered some trees as well at some point, and Ray seems to be on the same page as far as what we could do to redevelop that site. So that's the plan. Hopefully within the next month we'll have a gravel driveway there, or a gravel parking lot there, and whether or not we pave it this season, that's up to Ray. We maybe want to let it go through one winter cycle before we put pavement down, but it would be a usable parking lot prior to that.
And then the landscaping has always been my priority, Matt.
Yes. Yeah. On the plan, you can see that, some of the trees were planted recently. Laura looked at them. I think they may not have survived. They may need to be replanted. We can't hear you, Laura.
They did not survive. I did go look at them.
Okay. So we replant trees up on the hill closer to the bike trail, trees along in that sort of island area, if you can see the map, and then sort of a tree-lined entrance towards the transfer station, and then a grassy area between the transfer station and the parking lot and the baseball, sort of a little area for people to congregate. It will help to improve the visibility of the transfer station. So it rolls over to item B on that list too, the open house and the shred event. Denise, do you want to try to shoot for September?
Yeah, I think the fall, doing it now, I don't know. I mean,
there's a lot going on down there too.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of kids running around. If we did something, we could shoot for that point, having a graded parking lot, give us more room to do things down there with.
That sounds great.
And then it would give us a chance to install the new fencing we want to do to help clean up the site around the transfer station.
The site is certainly more visible now.
Yes, it is.
People aren't going to ask us where it is much longer. So
No,
we
especially-
really do have to, perhaps let's go over there, Matt, and look at
Yep.
what it looks like. Cause you know, you really can see it from the road now. You really can see it from the splash pad now. So
Yeah, and especially since hopefully, hey Josh,
Yes.
September, will they have the gas tanks out of the way?
That'd be close.
Do you want to wait? You want to
no,
try to
we can
schedule?
do it in October. I mean,
Okay.
I'm trying to,
'Cause
I don't know
that's-
how much I'm going to be around, but
I mean, that'll be a fast thing for them to do, decommissioning. I don't think that
Yeah.
was a long time, so, I mean, we could probably plan around it, but.
all right.
We'll give them
Well,
a little bit of a buffer too,
Mhm.
so that they'll be done and out of the way, and then it'll be sort of the reopening of the entire area, not just the transfer station too.
October might be better because the weather will still be good, but I would want to do it in early October, obviously.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is baseball, right? I mean, baseball's gonna be over there.
Yeah, they started playing this week. Yeah, so
Okay,
we'll shoot for early October.
let's see. Yeah, but Kathy would need to know. We've got to probably figure out some sort of hard date so Kathy can line it up.
I think after this week, we'll have a good idea of how quickly that site's coming together as far as the rough grading, so that we could schedule based off of that.
Okay. Oh, I guess we even have to find out if they're even doing it. I don't know who's doing what, right?
As far as what? Oh yeah. Well, we were working. Yeah.
Taking the stuff. So
So
Alrighty.
that's all I have. The next meeting, I assume, would be August 6th. Do you want to do 8 a.m. or 9 a.m.?
I hear that 9 a.m. is easier for Laura. You want to split the difference and do 8:30, Laura?
Yeah, 8:30 still works. It's just that 8 o'clock is difficult because that's my window for dropping Lily off at the JCC.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that
Try
would
to
be helpful for
balance.
me as well.
Okay, so 8:30 is preferred to everybody. I want to make it as easy as possible. You know, I always like to go early for residents. You know, it's not as easy to come, but there's ways for people to participate. So, and I'm assuming we were so late that's why Highway isn't here. So maybe 8:30 will be helpful. And then that way Matt and Josh and everybody else can get on the road and do what they have to do if we don't go too late into the day. So 8:30, Matt and Kathy?
Yes, and plan on it.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. We'll come out of executive session and there'll be no further business. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
I,
Get yourself on mute. Opposed? Okay, so we're going to log off this call, Laura, right? We're going to log, we have a
Yeah.
link for another